Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the Bodega Cat Book Club Financial Edition. And today we're continuing our reading of Gold Warriors by Sterling and Peggy Seagrave. So this book was inspired by a lot of the things that are going on in precious metal, in the geopolitical or in the financial arena. Let's just put it that way. And I've had this book for a while and I wanted to share it with you. I started reading it and then I sort of fell off the wagon, as they say. So it would be nice to pick it up and share it with you again. So that's where the inspiration comes. Um, if you guys like what we do here, I want to welcome everybody to the video. Consider checking out our other book clubs as well. We have our spiritual book clubs on Mondays, and then on Wednesdays, we have our health book clubs. So please join us there. If you can't join us live, we put all the books that we've read, all the ones in the past as well as the present on YouTube, and we have it on a playlist for you. So you guys can just download it and um, listen to it while you're walking your dog or, in traffic or whatever it is. And we have other contents in our on our YouTube as well. So not just the book club. So we have daily Akashic Wisdom readings and also a podcast as well. So please do check it out, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And if you have a book that you want to recommend for us to read, I'll put a link in the description box below for you guys to uh, recommend to put in. And it could be a spiritual book, it could be a financial book, it could be a health book. We will consider it because we love to read here. Reading is a lost art, in my opinion. A lot of people are very short uh short attention span, and I'm guilty. I'm one of them. But uh, and people like to watch YouTube, and I'm guilty. I'm one of them. But books have a very different frequency, if you will, if you want to think of it that way. And it does something to your brain, to the neural pathway of your brain. Um, Smart people read a lot. Wealthy people read a lot, leaders read a lot. So, anyways, that's why I started the book club because I just love to read. All right, enough of that. Okay, so also please consider signing up for our free monthly newsletter. And if you want to support us further, you can buy me a coffee, leave a donation. Check out our merch on our shop section in our website. We have many different designs for different holidays as well as everyday living for both your fur babies, for dogs and cats, as well as humans. So please do check it out and support us that way if you can. And then if you're in the Los Angeles area or if you're traveling or visiting LA, come visit us in person. We have a healing center. We use technologies based on Nikola Tesla's scalar wave research for holistic healing for both domestic cats and dogs as well as humans. So you can read all about that on our um, website and also other services that we provide as well. And however way, shape, or form that you guys support us, we appreciate it very much. But most importantly, thank you for watching these videos and thank you for supporting us that way. Okay, so let's get going here. This is chapter 2, and this will be part 1. Now, this particular book has a lot of endnotes at the back of the book, and what I'll do is I'll read either a page or a section, and then I'll flip to the back of the book and read the endnotes there. I decided to read the endnotes because there's some information that the author um, does a whole paragraph. So they give us a lot of information. So that's why I wanted to read the endnotes. But the thing is, they didn't in the chapter, the authors doesn't indicate if they have an endnote or not. So that is why I decided to just read, a page or a section and then read the endnotes. Okay. So if you have a book, you can follow with us there. I'm just going to move the camera in a little bit here so you guys can see. Or for people who like me who can't see anything, this camera is very useful as a magnifying glass. Okay, I think that's good. Yeah. All right. Okay, so here we go. Chapter 2, Rogue Samurai. Racing through the streets of Tokyo with drawn swords in September 1905, mobs led by Black Dragon thugs burned Christian churches, streetcars, police boxes, and ransacked a pro-government newspaper, all symbols of foreign influence. Riot police charged them with batons and swords, leaving 17 dead and 500 wounded before calm was restored. The riots were staged to intimidate American railway magnate E.H. Harriman and to discourage Japan's government from selling him the South Manchurian Railway, a war prize from Japan's victory over Tsarist Russia earlier that year. Harriman watched the smoke and flames from the secure vantage of the Mitsui Club, a mansion near the Imperial Palace. He was not alarmed, but amused. The club, staffed with European trained stewards, interpreters, and hostesses, boasted all the facilities of the finest men's club in New York or London. His host, Baron Mitsui, had arranged for Harriman to be entertained by the demonstration of the martial arts. It was performed by Black Dragon boss Uchida, the same man who had arranged the riots. Harriman wanted to buy the South Manchurian Railway to complete a round-the-world transportation network under his exclusive control, a plan that Uchida and Baron Mitsui intended to block. The riots alarmed Japan's government, which decided not to sell Harriman the railway. While Black Dragon knew all about Harriman, he knew little about them or their plans for Manchuria. To Japan's super patriots, Manchuria would be the test bed of empire and a base from which to invade China. However, Manchuria posed unexpected problems. Korea had been a poorly guarded warehouse filled with the wealth of 2,000 years. One Korean resistance was beaten down. It was only a matter of confiscating everything and shipping it to Japan. This was too easy, and the Japanese became complacent, thinking all of Asia would be a uh, facile. Hmm, not familiar with that word. Anyways, the challenge of Manchuria was different. Though twice as big as Texas and many times the size of Korea, it was not a packed warehouse, but a great wilderness. Okay, let's see what kind of endnote they have there. Page 23. Oh, there's just two. Okay, let me read one more page and then I'll read the endnotes. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Its only conspicuous wealth was in the industrialized cities of the Kwantung Peninsula in the south. The Treaty of Portsmouth, which concluded the Russo-Japanese War, gave Japan all of Russia's interests in South Manchuria, including the commercial port of Dalian, the naval base at Port Arthur, and the southern spur of the Russian-built railway running from Port Arthur north to Changchun. Eventually, this railroad would open the way for Japan to seize the whole of North China. Many Russian firms had invested in South Manchuria, so thousands of Russian families there immediately fell prey to Japanese soldiers, Kamputai, bureaucrats, and gangsters. But the rest of China's great northeastern province was a vast expanse of desolate mountains and wind-swept plains, extending north into Siberia and west into Mongolia, inhabited only by poor farmers growing sorghum and other crops that, like the farmers themselves, could somehow endure poor soil, hard summers, and brutal winters. Manchuria's real wealth, like that of Alaska, or British Columbia was in land, forests, and mineral deposits. So Russia and Japan were drawn to Manchuria not by art, antiquities, and gold bullion, but by its strategic location. Sorry, but by its strategic position and fine harbors that controlled naval access to the commercial centers of North China. Railway links would someday bind this region into a hive of prosperity. Till then, there was little to steal except land. If Japan were going to squeeze blood out of the stone, it would take determination and ingenuity. Meanwhile, many utopian plans would be abandoned, and the dreamers would turn Manchuria over to the rogues. Japan's rogues, called Teriku Ronin, were carpetbaggers, spies, secret policemen, financial conspirators, fanatical gangsters, drug dealers, and eccentric army officers. Together, they did what the dreamers could not do. They turned Manchuria into Asia's biggest center for hard drugs and a black money machine. In the process, they committed Japan to conquer China next. Manchuria's economy was managed by Japan's South Manchurian Railway Company, Mantetsu. Half of Mantetsu's stock was owned by the Japanese government, with Emperor Hirohito as the largest private shareholder, followed by the Mitsui and Mitsubishi industrial and banking conglomerates, each with its own spy networks. Mitsui spent $500,000 a year to maintain spies. Its overseas business offices provided cover for secret military operations. Driven by patriotism and greed, Mitsui executives collaborated with Black Dragon in stroking and coddling the Kwantung Army, for only the army could grab the Chinese concessions that Mitsui wanted. Under cover of research, Montetsu began building a huge intelligence service of its own. Highly educated Mantetsu researchers provided the army with inside information needed to hijack needed to hijack Chinese resources in Manchuria, quote, to feed the Japanese war machine and to expand the front farther south, end quote. Meticulously, they began itemizing China's agricultural, industrial, cultural, and personal wealth for the day when it all could be confiscated. Montetsu research bureaus soon had branches in Shanghai, Nanking, Hankow, Canton, Hong Kong, and elsewhere. This brain trust flowered into Japan's most influential center for China studies. In time, its experts would be sent to assist the army in looting all the way south to Java and west to Burma. Wow. Okay, let's read some of the endnotes in the back of the book here. Let's see here. Okay, so on page 23, we got the thing about running through the streets. Riots organized by the Black Dragon Society in protest of Harriman's plan to buy the South Manchuria rail lines. You can find that in Roberts, Mitsui, page 152, 163 to 164, page 181, 211, 216, and 385. The thing about Manchuria's historical background, you can find that in Seagrave, Dragon Lady. So, note about Russian families. One predator was Konstantin Ivanovich Nakamura, a Japanese who claimed to have embraced the Russian Orthodox religion. He ran a barbershop, a front for a drugstore dispensing morphine, heroin, and opium. Down the street, he had a brothel. And you can find that in Lamont Brown, Campetea, page 66 to 68. The note about Port Arthur, the Chinese name was Lushun. The note about Russian-built railways, little tongue twister there, railways. The railroad lease included a land corridor on either side of the track, towns adjacent to important stations. The narrow railway zone that traversed southern Manchuria and served to open the whole region to Japanese penetration. And you can find that in Roberts, Mitsui, page 166. The note about Emperor Hirohito was as the largest private stockholder in the Mantetsu, which is the South Manchurian Railway. You could find that in Roberts, Mitsui, page 166. He also held nearly 25% of Yokohama Specie Bank shares. C. Gunther, Inside Asia, and Stephen Large, Emperor Hirohito. The note about research offices of the South Manchurian Railway is from Young, Japan's Total Empire, page 280. Quote, the single most powerful center for China studies, end quote, is quoted from Young, Japan's Total Empire, page 270. The career of Hirano Sakai, who started off in Manchuria and then ended up in Sumatra during World War II, is a good example of how the Manchurian researchers came to work with the military. See Hirano Sakai, quote, Memories of Sumatra, end quote, in Reed and Akira, The Japanese Experience in Indonesia, page 289 to 296. Mitsui offices used as cover for secret operations is from Roberts, Mitsui, page 348. Kodama also used Mitsui offices in Shanghai and also offices of the OG Paper Company. See Kodama, I Was Defeated, page 70. Okay. All right, continuing in the chapter here. While, while Matetsu managed the economy, the Japanese army applied strong arm tactics. In 1911, when China's imperial government collapsed, chaos made all of Manchuria vulnerable to aggression. The army pressed local warlords for more and more mining and timber concessions, and the right to extend Matetsu rail lines in all directions. Mitsui and Mitsubishi made huge unsecured loans to bribe more cooperative warlords, and groups of Japanese officers were assigned to them as advisors. The most powerful warlord, Chang So-lin, had 50 Japanese watching him closely. They supplied him with weapons in turn for more concessions. A secret arms supply agency, ironically called the Taiping Heavenly Peace Company, was set up by Mitsui in 1907, with the army keeping all but 5% of the profits. This gave Japan's Kwantung Army so much financial independence, its senior officers grew rich. Freed of Tokyo's economic and political control, they turned Manchuria into a separate power base. Here, the Kwantung Army could do as it wished. If Tokyo politicians tried to interfere, they would be murdered and replaced by generals. The Kwantung Army and the Tiriku Ronin had become self-sustaining, a dangerously independent force. Whoever controlled warlord Chang So-lin also controlled Manchuria. More than a match for the Japanese at first, he played them off against Russians and Chinese. Tough and wily, he was also remarkably charming. The son of a poor seamstress, as a boy, Chang had borrowed a hunting rifle, shot a bandit, took his horse, and organized his own cavalry. During the Russo-Japanese War, he rented this cavalry to the Japanese for a small fortune. A patriot nonetheless, he then turned against Japan. allying himself to Dr. Sun Yat-sen's Kuomintang Party, the KMT, to block Japanese expansion in Manchuria. In 1916, the Japanese struck back when an assassin threw a bomb into his horse-drawn carriage, but Chang So-lin survived and ruled Manchuria 12 more years, collaborating with the Japanese only when it helped him stay in position. A small, delicate, good-looking man with a thin mustache and tiny hands, he cut a dashing, chain-smoking figure in fur-lined greatcoats, always accompanied by beautiful teenage concubines. During those turbulent years, it was hard to keep track of the warlords without a dance card. China's northern capital at Peking changed hands frequently. At the end of 1924, Christian warlord Feng Yuxiang, who baptized his men with a fire hose, took control and forced the last Manchu emperor, Pu Yi, to vacate the Forbidden City for more modest quarters in the outskirts. A few weeks later, with Japanese backing, Chan So-lin arrived with an elite force and expelled General Feng, installing in his place the hard-eyed Marshal Tuan Chi-jui as the new military boss of North China. With Marshal Tuan as their puppet in Peking, Japan enjoyed a free hand until 1925 when Dr. Sun Yat-sen died and his KMT political party was taken over by conservatives supporting Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek. This was one of history's fateful turning points, for in April 1927, Generalissimo Chiang turned on his former allies, the communists, staging a bloody purge that crippled the communist urban center and led to civil war. Whether right or left, and nationalism were catching on in China, becoming a nuisance to Japan's plans for conquest. Chinese students demanded the return of political and economic concessions wrestled from China earlier. In Manchuria, nationalists boycotted Japanese goods and staged noisy demonstrations. When warlord Chang So-lin allowed the boycotts to go ahead, the Japanese were greatly annoyed. After decades of bribing him, they decided to kill him. Okay, let's see what kind of endnotes we have there for that one page. Okay, not too many endnotes here. Okay, so the note about 50 Japanese officers can be found in Young, Japan's Total Empire, page 31. Note about Taiping Company, the treasure house of the army that could be found in Roberts, Mitsui, page 187. The note about the low army pay scales make it clear that private enterprise was the only way many Japanese military officers accumulated great fortunes. That was found in 40 Japanese Army Handbook, page 85. Note about Manchuria's a separate power base can be found in Young, Japan's Total Empire, and the note about Chang So-lin, Sea Bear, the Last Emperor, page 145. Seagrave, Song Dynasty, page 233 to 234. Okay, now let us continue in the chapter here. Okay, his murder, so we're talking about the warlord Chang So-lin. His murder was planned by Colonel Komoto Dezaku, one of many Japanese rogue adventurers who carried out conspiracies with Tokyo's blessing. Such men craved fame, excitement, and a share of the spoils. Whatever they did was cloaked in patriotism, so assured of support. To divert suspicion, the colonel blew up minor railway bridges, calling them terrorist attacks. He then poisoned two Chinese gangsters, planted incriminating documents on them, and put the corpses next to track belonging to Chang So-lin's company and mined the track with Russian explosives. Whenever he traveled, Jiang Solin sent his current teenage mistress ahead in a decoy train, following later in his own luxury express. Accompanying him on the night of June 2nd, 1928, was a Japanese advisor, Major Giga, who earlier had been based in Manila and Shanghai. While the train clattered north through the night, the two men drank beer and played mahjong. Just shy of Feng Tian, the major excused himself to pee, hurried to the rear of the train, and braced himself with a tight grip on the steel railing. A huge explosion lifted the train and flung it aside, killing Chang So-lin and everyone else but Major Giga, who suffered only a few cuts and bruises. Colonel Komoto expected China to retaliate, giving Tokyo a pretext to send more troops and seize all of Manchuria. To his dismay, Japan's cabinet refused to send more troops, so the conspiracy fizzled, but the warlord's murder was not in vain. According to the diaries of his own military aides, Emperor Hirohito showed no anger when he heard that officers acting on their own had murdered the Manchurian leader. He personally sanctioned a cover-up, indulged this insubordination, and thereby encouraged the army rogues to continue in the same manner. The emperor's message was clear. Ronin were free to conspire all they wanted, so long as they enlarged Japan's domain. The dead warlord's son, young Marshal Chang Sui-liang, had a long memory. In 1938, after a lapse of 10 years, assassins sent by him tracked Major Giga to the military academy in Tokyo and murdered him. Killing Chang So-lin had not produced the desired results, the Japanese High Command next sent its most brilliant and eccentric agent, Lieutenant Colonel Ishihara Kanji. He had served in Berlin, read Nietzsche, and was fascinated by the apocalyptic doctrines of Japan's medieval Buddhist monk, Nichiren. This led Ishihara to promote a final cataclysmic total war with the West, in which Japan would completely destroy the Soviet Union and America to become the dominant world power. His suicidal visions excited students at Japan's War College and contributed to Ishihara's fame as an unorthodox genius. It was Ishihara's mission to contrive a new incident where Japan would seem the victim, China the bully. Whatever Japan did would then seem offensive and justified. Historian Louis Young said, quote, inverting the roles of victim and aggressor transformed a Japanese military conspiracy into a righteous war of self-defense. For 3 years, oops, sorry about that. Oh, let me read that again, since I didn't move the book for you guys to look at. It was Ishihara's mission to contrive a new incident where Japan would seem the victim, China the bully. Whatever Japan did would then seem defensive and justified. Historian Louis Young said, quote, inverting the roles of victim and aggressor transformed a Japanese military conspiracy into a righteous war of self-defense, end quote. For 3 years, Ishihara waited for the right moment. Then Generalissimo Chen gave it to him. Okay, so let's see what kind of endnotes we have back there. Page 26. Okay. Oh, not too bad. Okay. So the note about Komoto Deisaiku and rogue adventurers. Right-wing author Okawa Shumei spent 10 years in China as an agent of Black Dragon. The sadistic secret policeman Amakasu Masuhiko was another. And you can find that in Young, Japan's Total Empire, page 16. One of the most famous Teiriku Ronin was Colonel Tomiya Kaneo, a zealot who hated Russians and pushed for the establishment of strategic hamlets on Manchuria's northern frontier as the first line of defense against Soviet attack. He was a cult hero in Japan's popular press in the 1930s, a wild-eyed samurai with goatee and disheveled hair. C. Young, Japan's Total Empire, page 365, or 385, sorry. And here's a note about the killing of Chan Solin. Our account blends elements from numerous sources, including Young, Japan's Total Empire, Pu Yi, From Emperor to Citizen, Roberts Mitsui, Bear, The Last Emperor, and Brachman, The Other Nuremberg. The note about Hirohito is personally sanctioned. A Japanese scholar makes this point about Hirohito. See Seagrave and Seagrave, The Yamato Dynasty, page 144. The note about Major Giga, you could find that in Bear, The Last Emperor, page 168 to 169. And the note about inverting roles, you can find that in Young, Japan's Total Empire, page 145. Okay. All right, back to the chapter here. In spring 1931, the Generalissimo refused to extend the lease to Manchuria's Kwantung Peninsula, demanding that Japanese forces pull out and relinquish the railway system that was Mantetsu's heart and soul. Tokyo refused, denouncing China's government as anti-Japanese. Tempers rose as native Manchurian farmers attacked Japanese immigrants and were put down harshly by Japanese police. A minor fracas, it was inflated to war frenzy by the Japanese media. In a separate incident, a Japanese officer carrying surveying instruments and packs of narcotics for bribes was arrested by Chinese soldiers and executed on the spot. Here was the moment Colonel Ishihara had been waiting for. He blew up a lonely stretch of Mantetsu track and blamed the sabotage on Chinese soldiers. In what was called self-defense, the Kwantung Army swarmed onto a Chinese base at Fantian, used artillery to flatten crowded barracks, then machine-gunned Chinese soldiers as they scrambled out of the rubble. In the confusion following Ishihara's game plan, the Kwantung Army waged a series of lightning campaigns that brought 4 provinces of northeast China under its control, including all 440,000 square miles of Manchuria. To dress up the aggression, Japan announced that Manchuria would now become the independent nation of Manchukuo. China had so many problems, it was unprepared for war. Generalissimo Chang ordered Chinese soldiers not to resist, but he vigorously protested the seizure of Manchuria and demanded that the League of Nations intervene. According to Prince Mikasa, Hirohito's youngest brother, the League of Nations delegation sent to Manchuria, headed by the Earl of Lytton, was served fruit laced with cholera germs in an attempt to frustrate their fact-finding mission. Luckily, no one in Lytton team got sick. They concluded that the Manchurian incident was phony, the state of Manchukuo was only a Japanese puppet, and Tokyo had committed aggression. When the League of Nations endorsed Lytton's report in spring 1933, Japan's delegation withdrew from the League, committing Japan to a collision with its Western rivals. War fever was sweeping Japan. Magazines and newsreels gave heavy coverage to army actions, boasting that 10 Japanese could defeat 100 Chinese. All Chinese were engaging in looting, violence, and atrocities. Killing Chinese civilians was justified because anyone in the street in Manchuria is in plainclothes soldier. In one of the more outrageous justifications of rape and murder, a Japanese soldier told readers, quote, "Everybody thinks that only men are plainclothes soldiers, but there are women, kids, all kinds. Once a young woman of 22 came up to me looking very friendly, but then I had a bad feeling, and I shouted out a warning. I strip searched the girl. She couldn't understand me, so I gestured with my hands. Underneath her clothes, she was wearing 2 pairs of panties. Hidden inside, sure enough, there was a pistol. I did not want to kill her, but she tried to hit me with the gun, and that was why she died. I was provoked. End quote. Glorification and public hysteria drove government and business leaders to give the army all it wanted to carry out its Manchurian experiment. Hmm. Okay, we'll stop here for now. Let me read the end note in the back. Just a side note, League of Nations is a precursor to the United Nations. And I'm just curious about the phrase Manchurian candidate, how that came about, if that has to do with if that has anything to do with Manchuria at all. If anybody knows, just put it in the comment below. I'd be very curious, very interested to know. Okay, let's read the rest of the endnote for page 27. So the note for spring 1931, consequences of warlord's murder. You could find that in Young, Japan's Total Empire, page 38. Note about farmers' riot and Nakamura incident. You can find that in Young, Japan's Total Empire, page 39. And note about lightning campaigns. Again, Hirohito did not punish the Kwantung Army commanders, according to the diary of his chief military aide. Quote, the army was to be more careful in the future, end quote. See Seagrave and Seagrave, the Yamato Dynasty, page 144. Uh, the note about laced with cholera. Japanese secret agents attempt to kill the Laiton Commission with cholera germs is from Terry McCarthy, Tokyo in 1931 poison plot. Independent, 7 July 1994. Gwen Robinson, Hirohito's brother, tells of war crimes by the army. The Times, 7 July 1994. The note about war fever in 1932, 36 articles and 17 books appeared in Tokyo on the subject of a coming war with the United States. And the note about all Chinese, Japanese charges against Chiang and his troops. See Young, Japan's Total Empire, page 143. One more. The note about two pairs of panties. Young, you can find that in Young, Japan's Total Empire, page 99 to 100. Wow, very interesting. Interesting history, eh? Well, I hope you enjoyed that. My book's kind of falling apart here a little bit. Whenever I can, I'll get the hard copy. Because soft copy, they soft copies are what's the word I want? They fall apart kind of easily. Anyways, all right. I hope you enjoyed that. And thank you for being here again. And please check out our YouTube channel and sign up for our free monthly newsletter and support us in whatever way, shape, or form that you can. And we will see you next time in the next book club. Okay, bye-bye now.